The marble floors of the Hollingsworth mansion gleamed under the morning sun, but nothing in that vast estate could brighten the heart of its lonely heir. Little baby Adrian, the only child of billionaire Victor Hollingsworth, had everything money could buy: designer clothes, diamond-studded toys, even a nursery that looked like a page torn from a fairy tale. But every nanny who walked through those towering doors left in tears. Some were insulted, some were bitten, and many were spat on by the very child they were hired to love. The mansion staff whispered among themselves that Adrian was cursed, born with the same coldness that filled his father's world. But they were all wrong. What no one knew was that the baby wasn't cruel. He was just lost in a silence no luxury could fill. If you believe kindness and second chances can heal even the coldest hearts, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner, because sometimes even the smallest act of compassion can rewrite someone's story forever. Victor Hollingsworth was a man who measured life in numbers, profits, shares, mergers, but never emotions. His wife, Mariah, had passed away during childbirth, leaving behind a son he didn't know how to love, and a grief he buried beneath million-dollar suits. To the world, he was powerful and untouchable. To his child, he was simply absent. Dozens of nannies came and went, each one quitting after just days. The mansion became a revolving door of caretakers, all defeated by a baby who refused affection. No one dared question why until a woman named Isla Moreno stepped inside. Isla wasn't from their world. She lived in a small, fading apartment on the city's edge, where every dollar she earned went toward her mother's medicine and her younger sister's tuition. When she applied to be a maid at the Hollingsworth estate, she didn't dream of anything grand. She just wanted stability, a chance to work quietly, mop floors, and maybe afford a better life someday. Her first day was like stepping into another universe: chandeliers that looked like falling stars, silence so deep it echoed, and faces that barely acknowledged her presence. She didn't mind. She had learned long ago that invisible people often carry the purest hearts. Her daily routine was simple: dust the furniture, polish the mirrors, wipe away the fingerprints on the glass walls that overlooked manicured gardens. But one morning, everything changed. As she was cleaning near the nursery, a high-pitched wail broke the stillness. The new nanny, a woman in her 30s wearing pearls and perfume, came rushing out in tears. "He spat at me again," she sobbed, throwing her apron onto the floor. Victor's personal assistant sighed. Another resignation letter would soon follow. Isla hesitated outside the nursery door, her mop in hand, the cries tugging at her chest. Against her better judgment, she peeked inside. There he was, little Adrian, red-cheeked and furious, sitting in his golden crib, surrounded by expensive toys he clearly didn't care for. His small fists were balled up, his face wet with tears. Isla stepped closer, speaking softly, even though she knew he couldn't understand her words. "It's okay, sweetheart," she whispered, setting them up aside. "You don't have to cry." She reached for a soft cloth and gently wiped his tears. Adrian stared at her, startled. No one had ever touched him that way, without fear, without frustration, just gentle care. For a moment, he froze. Then, without warning, he leaned forward and pressed his lips to her cheek. The moment felt like time itself had stopped. Outside, the birds sang faintly through the glass windows, and in the hall, Victor Hollingsworth stood frozen in disbelief. He had come to see why the new nanny was crying. But instead he saw his son, his difficult, impossible son, resting calmly in the arms of a cleaning maid. He rubbed his eyes, wondering if he was dreaming. The same child who spat on every caretaker had just kissed a stranger. Word spread through the mansion like wildfire. The staff couldn't believe it. The baby who hated everyone adored the maid. Victor didn't know what to make of it. That evening, he asked Isla to stay in the nursery a little longer. He stood silently by the doorway as she hummed an old lullaby her mother used to sing, watching his son's eyelids flutter peacefully. He felt something stir in him, something unfamiliar, something he thought had died the day Mariah did. Over the next weeks, Isla became a quiet miracle in that mansion. She never overstepped her role, never asked for more than what she earned. Yet, every time she entered the nursery, Adrian's eyes lit up. He laughed for the first time, ate without fuss, and even reached for Victor one evening while Isla was nearby. It was as though her presence had unlocked something buried deep inside the child, a sense of safety, of love untainted by wealth or fear. Victor found himself watching her often. He noticed how she always checked on the older staff, how she left food outside the gardener's quarters, how she never complained even when her hands cracked from overwork. She reminded him of the woman he had lost. Gentle, grounded, kind. One day, he overheard her on the phone telling her sister not to worry about rent this month. He realized she had been sending almost all her earnings home. Something broke inside him. Then, the wall between privilege and empathy. One afternoon, when Adrian fell ill with a fever, Isla stayed by his side all night, refusing to rest. When Victor came to relieve her, she shook her head weakly, eyes filled with worry. "He needs someone he trusts," she said softly. Those words echoed in Victor's chest. For the first time in years, he sat beside his son, holding his tiny hand, whispering promises he didn't know he still had in him. By morning, the fever broke. When Adrian opened his eyes, he looked not just for Isla, but also for his father. And in that moment, something unspoken passed between the three of them. A fragile thread of love mending what money had long broken. From that day forward, the mansion changed. The halls no longer felt empty. Laughter returned to the nursery, and so did life to Victor's eyes. He promoted Isla, not just as the head caretaker, but as someone whose presence was now essential to their lives. When reporters later asked him about his sudden transformation from cold tycoon to doing father, he simply said, "It started with a kiss. My son gave to someone who had nothing and gave us everything." If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Let's remind the world that love isn't found in luxury. It's found in kindness, in small acts that change lives. Before you go, tell us in the comments, what do you think made the baby choose Isla over everyone else?